So there they are, all gathered together in this room. This is a culmination of the things that they had planned. They'd been planning this for a long time. I'm talking about the scribes and the elders and the Pharisees. We read all about it in the Gospel of Mark. Starting in the very beginning of his ministry, they had sent people up from Jerusalem up to Galilee to investigate him. They had sent people up there to disrupt. They had sent people up there to disturb. All of that had been going on all during the time of Jesus' ministry. We don't often think about this because we see Pilate and how that he was the public figure who stood before the crowds, but behind the scenes, we find these men who had been very, very busy making their plot to where they could find a way to capture Jesus Christ and get him away from the crowds so that they could persecute him and do away with him. So here they are. We find this in the Gospel of Mark, chapter 14, verse 53. And they led Jesus away to the high priest, and with him were assembled all the chief priests and the elders and the scribes. They're all there. And they're all there for a common purpose. It's interesting when you read in the Gospel of John, you'll find that after the resurrection of Lazarus, and there was a big meeting that took place, and lots of people were there. And these scribes and these elders, they were there, and they witnessed that big crowd after the resurrection of Lazarus because they could not hardly even hold the crowds because of the people who came to see. And it was right after that it says they convened this council with the end result of their meeting was, we have to kill him. We've got to kill this man. And so you'd ask yourself the question, why were they so desperate? Why was it so important to them that they destroyed this man? Well, because he was about to tear up everything that they were for and everything they stood for. Because you see, a true follower of God would be a person who would lead the people to spiritual things and to have an understanding of spiritual things. But that was not the goal of these men. These men, they wanted control over the masses. They wanted control over the people because the people in their being dominated meant influence, power, and money for those who had the reins of authority. And they were the ones that were saying that, hey, we are the representation of God. But they were not. They were the representation of themselves. They cared very little about whether or not the people had a true connection with God. But a true leader and a spokesman with God will always be like Jesus was, who always pointed toward his heavenly Father. And as a leader of the people, as a spiritual person, that should always be our goal, is to lead people to the Father. This is Pastor Jack King with the Gospel on the radio broadcast.